Hi and welcome to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. We're going to do a flight in the Beechcraft King Air 350i and we're going to do an ILS landing. But early on I want to show you all the airports in the game, and on the right of the screen you've got all the ILS frequencies for all the default released airports in the game. Now you may like to bookmark this video, pause the video and zoom in, and you'll be able to see all the runway information and the ILS frequencies for all of those airports in the list on the left. It's in the same order as the airports list on the left. I've included where you can obtain all this information at the bottom, and I will also put all this information into the description of the video if I can, so you can find where you can find the source for all this information as well. You will find that all the premium and the deluxe airports have a ILS frequency, but not all of the standard airports have an ILS frequency. I hope some of you find this information really helpful. I have not seen anyone else put a whole list together with all of this, so I've researched, I've put it all into a big list, and then I've put it on the screen for you. So yeah, if you want to bookmark this video, feel free and you can come back to it anytime. We're going to be doing a landing today at KSEA, runway 34L, which is a default airport with the standard version. And we're going to be using runway code 110.75. If we bring up the chart for today, we can see here on the left of the screen, in the top left, 110.75, which is our runway frequency. We've got runway 34L ILS, and over here we've got the ILS frequency again mentioned, 110.75. We've got our glide slope information down here, and we'll come back to this chart a little bit later. Let's get over to our plane. Now this is not a tutorial video, but you're welcome to follow along. I am aware that you've got a checklist up here. If you want to follow that, please do. I'm just going to show you how I'm starting the plane. I'm playing this game with fun in mind, not simulation or realism, so please keep that in mind. Let's get rid of the yoke. I'm going to turn on the battery, and then I'm going to turn on the right ignition. Now just make sure that your two mixtures are all the way up to the top, and that will get started for you. Then you can turn on the left ignition, and what you're looking for is up here on the screen, this little white triangle going into the green zone. To give us something to do in the meanwhile, I'm just going to turn on the left pitot, right pitot, left the beacon, the strobe and the tail floodlight. Look back up here and it should be almost towards the green light, the green section. It's in the green. So what we're going to do is we're going to then turn on the right generator. We're going to turn off the right ignition. Let's put it back to off. We're going to look up here, it's now on the green, and we're going to go back to here, turn on the left generator, turn off the left ignition. We're going to push the two propellers forward all the way. So that one and then that one. Our handbrake is already on. It's on by default with this plane. So all we now need to do is turn on our avionics. And that's it. That's how you cold and dark start the plane if you want to do it really quickly. So don't be intimidated. Microsoft Flight Simulator is for everyone. And you'll also be able to do an ILS landing. Now I'm going to describe to you the whole process on how to do an ILS landing at the start of this video while we're on the ground. First thing we're going to do is down here, we can click anywhere in this zone. Now this is a touch screen, which is really cool about this plane. And you can click anywhere in this zone, and also over here if you want. If you left click here, you will see up in the top right we've got PFD options and it says CDI source. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to change the CDI source to FMS. Notice this line goes purple and we've got into FMS mode, and we're done with that. To get rid of this screen, we can left click once here and that will get us back to here. We're going to click on audio, and up here you'll notice nav radios. I'm going to left click once to make sure there's a green line under nav 1. There's another way you can do it. Over here on the left there's a nav button. Left click once and notice the light goes out. Left click again and it comes on. Okay, so that's the second way you can do that. Make sure that's on. Click up here in the top right and click on split. And then under split, in the very bottom of the screen, you'll notice FPL. We're going to left click on FPL down here. In this screen, you'll notice there's a whole bunch of options which you can explore. The one we're interested in at the moment is the one which says nav1. Nav1 frequencies. We're going to left click that. And we're going to put in the code for today, which is 110.75. Now it's not active because we need to click on this here, the transfer button. If we click on Xfer, you'll notice up here it'll say active FREQ 110.75. So now we've got all that information done. We're going to left click on cancel and we're all good. We can bring ourselves back to here. The really interesting bit, which is interestingly different about this plane compared to some of the others, is it's a touchscreen. You can left click here. Okay, so that probably is the bit which you are going to have to pick up. You left click here and then you can change the CDI source to FMS, and that's going to help a lot of you. Now, the next step is once we're up in the sky and we're starting to move, we've got to click 3 buttons. And it's very similar to the other planes. We're going to turn on the autopilot. We're going to turn on our altitude hold mode. We're going to turn on our nav mode. Now in this plane, it will ask you in the warnings down here to turn on the yaw damper, so you can click that as well. Then, once you are all the way towards your target location and you're going to begin to catch your glide slope, you need to tick on your approach button. You're clicking here, approach, and then you're just clicking over here, clicking once there, and changing the CDI source to what will be LOC1. You can change it to LOC1. That's all you need to click. And then, once the plane is only 50 meters above the ground, you left click once here on autopilot, turn it off, hand fly it into the runway, use your rudder pedals to keep the plane straight. Then you can also push F2 on the keyboard to use your reverse. And then as the plane gets slower, you can then push the throttle forward to get it back into a forward mode. And you can use the wheel brakes to bring yourself to a stop or to help navigate yourself off onto the taxiway. And then you can shut down and stop. Now, if none of that made any sense to you, I'm going to show you a full flight of us doing that. So you can jump to the end of the video and see the landing and see the ILS landing. But otherwise, feel free to subscribe, like and comment on the video if you found any of that information helpful. As I say, I really do hope that all this information is super going to be useful to you guys. So we've got 110.75, we're going over there today. Let's get ourselves up into the air and get going. Just want to have a quick look over what we're doing. I'm going to change my bearing pointer here to nav1. I'm going to make sure this is ready on FMS, and I'm just going to go up to here. I'm going to change my altitude to get that ready, and I'm going to change that through to maybe 8,000. We have got an FLC mode we can turn on if you want for climbing, and you could change your speed and move it up to whatever you want. We could make it like 200, 220 or so. That'll do for the moment. Okay, so let's get ourselves moving. I don't think there's anything else I need to think about. So I'm going to take off our parking brake. I do need to get on top of our rudder pedals. I'll have a little look outside and see what's going on. I'm going to push F2 on the keyboard to get our plane going backwards. Just keep the F2 held down if you're wondering what's going on. You don't tap it. You can push left control and Q on the keyboard to take off the parking brake. Then push your throttle forward. The plane will switch to forward mode. You can start moving forward. Try and get ourselves up into the air quickly. Now the other thing I want to do is, because this is a fairly short runway, we're taking off from course, I'm just pushing F7 on the keyboard to bring our flaps out a little bit. We've got the plane doing automatic air traffic control, but there's no one else in this game world, so I've got all air traffic off, so we don't have to worry about that. I've also got the sky clear so we can record as well as possible. That is the reason. Okay, so we'll just get ourselves into the plane so we can be a little bit more ready. And then we'll turn ourselves around. We'll give ourselves full throttle by holding the wheel brakes. We can hear the engine revving up a little bit. Let go of the wheel brakes. Turn off that warning. Now it's a fairly short runway, so we will take off. I have put all the flap extension information, gear extension information, where you can find that information into the description of this video, so if you're looking for that, I've made that available to you. I am aware of all that information, but right now I'm just going to make sure we get off the runway. Here we go, so we're just going to pull back gently. You can see we're up and away. We're just going to push G on the keyboard to bring the gear in. We can see the gear just coming in. And we're going to push F5 on the keyboard to bring our flap in. Then we'll slowly roll ourselves off to the left, and then we'll hand it off to the autopilot pretty soon. Now you can put on the FLC if you wanted to. You could turn that on and it can help keep our speed as we're climbing. But I'm just going to hand it off to the autopilot. In a moment. There we go, we're nice and good. We'll straighten it out. Then I'm going to click on autopilot, engage autopilot, then I'm going to click on nav mode on, and we're on FMS mode, so we're all good. We can left click there to get out of that. It's asking us to put the yaw damper, which I told you guys about earlier, so I'm going to left click that to turn that on. The plane is still climbing, all the way up to 8,000. It's keeping our speed for us at 211. Or you can do it manually if you want. It is a lot more fun to do it manually. $2,000. We'll have a little look outside while we still have that opportunity, and we've got cool weather. So we took off from down there today, and we took off left and we came around. You can see the ground down there below. Some absolutely awesome elevation information here on this game. I think we can leave the plane. We might just keep an eye on the plane for the moment. 3,000, 4,000, it's relatively okay. Look at the scenery just up until we get up to 8,000. It's got us going on the correct way. You can use an Xbox One controller to move around if you haven't got one. It works very well with this game. You can get the Tobii Eye Tracker working with the game, but there is no official support. So the Tobii Eye Tracker 5 and 4 both work, is reported in the forums. I have got the 5 working. At this point I don't recommend it until we have official support, but it is functional. The eye tracking is not working at all, but the head tracking, you can get that working. So the plane is almost up towards 8,000. $7,000. If you're not aware, there's a whole bunch of lights at the top here. You can turn them on. They're not necessary to start the plane up, but just so you're aware that they are there. It'd be really cool if someone does a study level version of this plane, because a lot of the buttons are not functional, which I'll show you in a little bit. This is still on nav 1. It's cool. Okay, so it's getting us close to 8,000 now. It's flashing, so it should have switched back over to altitude hold mode. And then all we've got on is navigation mode, altitude hold mode, and we've got our autopilot on. Okay, so that's all that's going on up there. We just now need to keep an eye on our speed, and the plane will hold us at 8,000 nice and comfortably. We can go off and have a little look at the other chart information. In fact, we want to bring up this map here, and then I just want to put that onto the right of the screen. There we go. And then we bring up our chart. And we can see here some of the names. So we've got here on the left Sonder, we want to be at 6,000. And we can see over here on the right Sonder. So it's using the same names as the chart, which is very cool. The game is doing all of that. We've got Hipro, where we want to be at 4,000, which it indicates down here. And we've got Hipro, and then we have Jalon, Josta, we want to be at 4,000. Then at Jalon, we want to be at 2,400. So we've got 2,400 at Jalon, and then we're going to follow the glide slope all the way down to the runway. We can see here it says the glide slope is at 3 degrees, so we can basically calculate where we need to be. And we've got obviously up the top left again, we've got our ILS code 110.75 and 110.75. So you're checking for that number against, this sort of chart where I've got 110.75 runway 34L. But we know that is all correct, so that is good. If you did miss the start of the video, I put up all the information for all the ILS runways in this list of airports. So you may find that information super helpful as well. Feel free to pause the video if you didn't grab that information, and then you have a source for that. So we'll just jump back to our lovely plane. There we go, cool, and we'll bring up a chart. If we can bring up a chart, there we go, we've got our chart. But yeah, we're going to be following glide slope down from Hipro. So what we need to do is make sure we're at 5,000 for Hipro. So from Sonder down to Hipro, we need to make sure that we're at 5,000 at Hipro. And then we're going to follow that down to 4,000, down to 2,400. We know something is awfully wrong if we're not at 2,400 by Jalon, okay? Because that's sort of our last step before we go down towards the runway. And we can see that here, going all the way down. So that is all good. Let's go back to our plane. This map is very cool, but if you ever get lost, you can click on the little plane symbol, find your plane for you. I'm probably zooming around a little bit too much with this. We can see our outside air temperature, 1 degree Celsius. And over on the left, it shows us in Fahrenheit, if you need the conversion. But you can also click this and it'll bring it back over to Celsius, 0 degrees, but it seems relatively cold. We're up at the moment just at 8,000 stable. Unfortunately, we're in the red zone, so we want to pull that back a little bit, especially for this altitude. We're playing this game for fun, so please do keep that in mind. If you want to simulate it a little bit more realistic, you can pack your luggage, you can go through customs, and you can make the game as realistic as you like. But yeah, my main objective here is to have fun with the game. Realism is not my objective, but I do hope that you can learn something from the videos, because that would be really good, and you find the game less frustrating. As I say, this game really should be for everyone. It is not that hard. It can seem really difficult, and you too will also be able to do an ILS landing. So we're using the King 350i today. And we haven't had a chance to really look outside, so let's go do that. Got some really wonderful scenery out there in the distance. I don't get to see scenery like that in real life very often at all. This game is wonderful in terms of being able to see places that you would not be able to visit in real life, or have not visited in real life. You can really get an idea on the elevation of places from this, which is very hard to get when you're just looking at a flat map or satellite image. There are some very cool views out in the showcase. You can click on the fixed camera and you can get some of these undercarriage stores. This is pretty much my favorite camera. And you can watch the ground as you travel along. Two lovely engines there pulling us forward and pushing the air over the wings. We've got a little way to go before we get towards our target sonder today. What we will need to do is bring our altitude down at enough time to get us back to where we need to be. Just leave actually, there is another cool camera if you haven't seen it. It's at like 8 or something. It's this one here, number 10 on the showcase, and it's sort of giving you a little bit of a side view as well at the scenery. So this one is very cool if you're just wanting to play this game to look at scenery while traveling along, and still at least keeping an eye on what the plane is doing. But you can see the workload for us is pretty light at the moment once we start utilizing that autopilot. And if you want to try this yourself, you can do a landing at this runway and practice to see if you can do an ILS landing. You've now got another source on how to do that with this plane. You can try and practice it in other planes as well if you like. Feel free. If we can just change to our external camera, and we've got our external camera around about there, cool. Happy with that. There is some cool back area if you haven't seen the back of this plane yet. And the seats. There's all that. And of course that's the roof. If we can zoom back a little bit, you can have a look at it. But all of these buttons down here, which I said I'd show you, this is all not functional. So if you scroll above it, it will say inop, etc. So all these are inoperative. Over up here on the top right, we've got a bunch of like temperature, they're all inoperative. That's not too important, but it'll just be cool to be able to flick the switches even if they don't work. But you'll find a lot of that is all inoperative. A lot of the switches along here are inoperative. So yeah, if someone could do in the future a study level version of this plane, that would be really exciting. I think that would be a lot of fun. But at the moment, this is okay to also have fun. You've got windscreen wipers you can turn on. Just try and level our camera up a bit because I moved around a few times. We can jump over to our co-pilot seat for a few moments and look out our window. I have got the information on when to put the gears out and the flaps out, but you can also see obviously a little bit of that up here. But I've put that in the description of this video. We will jump back to our pilot seat and we'll try and take on the landing position. So we might have a chance to go through what we did. If we have, I will go through it. We do. To start this plane up, what we did is we turned on our battery. I turned on the right to ignition to on. I just made sure that this engine mixture is all the way up, engine mixture all the way up. And then if you want, you can turn on your left starter, get that going. You're looking up here and you're waiting to see if the little white triangle is in the green zone. As soon as it is, go back to here, turn on your generator, and then turn your ignition to off. Then do the same with the left, turn on the left end generator and turn the ignition to off. The only other things I did was I went down here, I turned on the two PTOTs, left and right, and I turned on the beacon, strobe and the tail floodlight. You can turn on the other lights if you like. In this case we'll turn on our landing because that's coming up soon. And you can turn on your master avionics. You can take off your parking brake when you're ready. Now as far as setting ourselves up for the ILS landing, down here to touchscreen, so you can click anywhere in this zone, left click once and it brings up this screen. In here, PFD options, you can left click here to change the CDI source. Then we want to change our radios. I'm just going to click on audio, make sure nav radio and this is turned on. You can also do it with this switch over here. Click on split, click on FPL, Click on nav1, enter the number you need, so in this case it's 110.75. Click on transfer, and then you've got all your nav information in and ready. You can click cancel at the moment because we don't need that. Then once you're up into the sky, we're just clicking on autopilot, we're clicking on altitude hold, and we're clicking on nav. Those three things, and then your plane will take you comfortably to where you need to go, as it's doing for me at the moment, if I didn't click anything and mess anything up while describing to you. And then once you are close to your destination, which in this case is all the way going to be down between Sonder and Heathrow, so somewhere in between there you're going to be basically, so Sonder we need to be at 6,000, make sure you're at the right altitude, and then somewhere in between there what we are going to do is we're going to click on approach button, and then we are going to click on over here, we're going to change the CDI source to LOC1. Just those two buttons. The plane will give us all the way down to the runway. Keep an eye on your speed with your throttle, but that's all you need to be doing. And then at the very last 50 meters before the runway, you just click this one button, autopilot, turn the autopilot off and hand fly it in. Use your rudder pedals to keep yourself straight on the runway. You want to be doing that. And then push F2 on the keyboard to put on your reverses. And then when the plane's a little bit slower, you can pull the throttle all the way back to idle, but then push it forward to make sure that you turn off those reverses. And then use your wheel brakes left and right to just come to a stop, or to help navigate yourself off the runway onto the taxiways. And then you can just do your shutdown and you're all good and done. So that's all the steps pretty much. I hope that really does help you. If you do find this information helpful, please do feel free to subscribe, like, comment on the video. I really do appreciate. We've given you all of this information here as well in this video. So you've now got a resource for all the ILS frequencies. I've also given you the source that I've got, where I've got all this information from down the bottom. So you can look it up yourself if you like to. Please do. You can pause the video, you can bookmark it. You can also make a cut of the video information. Zoom in on the information however you like. But I hope that is helpful to all of you. So we're now coming along towards the final steps. I want to start getting that plane down. I think the ATC will probably be telling me to descend. What are they telling me to do? They're telling me to do something at the moment. Present heading and altitude. Very well. Well, I do want to start descending. How much further do we have? A little bit. We can see our distance down here on the 16.7. If you don't have this in here, like I'll put on nav1 or nav2, if you have what's known as nav2 no data, do check your ILS code that you've got the correct code, or just make sure that you're not too far away at that point, because it won't show it from long way away. But we'll just put it on nav1 for the moment. 15.1 nautical miles. Now if we look at our map, it's got the locator here, so we're going to get closer to it, and then we're actually going to get further away for a little bit as we come down here and come around. We need to make sure we've got an eye on our altitude by these 2 points. We've shown the chart for this flight, so that's all good. We haven't had a good chance to look at the scenery. I'm hoping the scenery might be a bit more interesting now. Let's go have a look, shall we? Let's push on outside view. We've got some very cool scenery out here. Wow. It always amazes me, especially when you play a flight simulator, how many airports there are just everywhere. In real life, you don't realize there's that many airports when you're down on the ground, but when you play a flight simulator, it seems like the whole world is covered in airports. Of course, there's even more airports for the planes which can land on water, because I've got a huge area here, which is quite calm, I think, in this weather. At least in the game. We'll need to bring our gear down, of course, and our flaps down. We'll do that just under 180. Have a little look and see if the ATC is telling us anything different. Look at that, it's saying go down to 6,000 now. So we will begin to do that immediately. So we're going to change our altitude here. Changing the number down to 6,000. Then to do that, you click on VS and I'll click on down. It's pushing the nose down. Make sure you bring your throttle back a little bit if necessary, because the plane's going to gather speed. There we go, plane's going down. We're going down about 1200 here. Keep an eye on our fuel flow. Lost our plane again, but we'll just click that button. We started the plane flight with around about 50% fuel. Keep in mind up here you've got a nav log, and you've also got a watch, a stopwatch you can use. And in the plane, you've also got the other stopwatch in here. You can click on start. And you've got another source for a stopwatch, but we don't need that at the moment. We're almost down to 7,000. Don't really want our yoke. We've got our landing lights on and ready. We will want to make sure that we can show you that we're lined up like nice and perfectly on the runway. That's what I'm looking for anyway, just when I'm playing. I want to see that it's nicely lined up. Almost down to 6,000 now. Very cool to be flying in this good weather. We can have a little look up here at our FPL. You can see all the other options that are available to us. You can look at your active flight plan, procedures, a direct to the nearest airport, change your COM 1 and 2, and then your 2 nav frequencies. If you're bored of that, you can get out of it and bring yourself back to here. We're back to 6,000, so it's leveling ourselves off now. Speed's coming down a little bit further. You will notice our nautical miles, I think, will go up. 9.1, there you go. 9.2, it's going up just slightly. But it's going up, like I was indicating earlier. So I'm going to bring our altitude, or get ourselves ready to go down to that 5,000. And we'll be catching the glide slope today here at Heathrow at 5,000. So we'll be hitting our approach button. If you want to try this yourself, just as to see if you can get it to work, you want to be hitting your approach button somewhere between Sonder and Heathrow. And not only do you need to hit that approach button, you need to be clicking here and changing this CDR source to LSC1. Okay, so that's the two things, not just approach. They're the two things that need to be done. Keep an eye on your speed. We can worry about that a little bit more once we get past Heathrow. It's not hard to slow this plane down, especially from where we are at the moment. It will take a slow bend left and around. No clouds in the sky, so we've got as good a frame rate as we possibly can. So as we come around, we'll notice this nautical miles here start coming down again as we get closer towards the runway. That's also a good indication that we have the correct one plugged in at this time. Outside air temperature has gone up to 3 degrees Celsius. We hope all the passengers are enjoying their flight today. We are going to begin our descent soon, so please stay seated, and we'll be on the ground soon so you can get on the rest of your day. So we'll keep a little eye on this map. The important bit now is just this. I don't actually need this map for any real reason, but we can make it smaller perhaps. That would be helpful. We wanted to make it big so you guys could see it. We'll leave it like that for the moment. I think that's helpful. Then we'll make the bend around and we'll be on the ground pretty soon. We've got the flight director here, vertical speed, VNav, vertical nav, flight level change, nav, half bank, heading mode, approach mode, altitude hold, yaw, down part, autopilot. This turns off the autopilot, by the way. The course selects, and of course the flight director. We're showing what you need to do though just to do the ILS landing. If you have any warnings, these are actually clickable. If you're not aware, as you can see, you can click them. They light up. If you're just bored, I suppose you can just click them because that's cool fun. Do whatever is fun. I can't imagine they're clicking them all the time in the real life, but we are playing this to have fun, and if that's how you want to play the game, then that's great. So we're coming around now. We'll have a look at it outside. Yep, we're bending around. When we're coming up to that last sort of moment, if you can't see the runway very well, you can always push space on the keyboard just to give yourself that extra little bit of a view. So keep that in mind. This is really cool. Often some games you sort of had to go to a lot of trouble to get a view like this, but this game gives it to you like that. Have a look at that view out that wing. That is awesome. I normally choose the middle of the day. I chose sort of early morning here, so we've got quite a different scene. We'll begin to see this number come down as we get a little bit further around the corner. But yeah, if you haven't given this plane a go, please do. It is a lot of fun. Relatively quick, and it has a really good range as well. Some of the smaller planes certainly don't have the same range as this, so there's quite a big benefit, which does open up the chance to maybe reach some islands in some locations of the world, which you wouldn't ordinarily be able to without going up to the menu and, you know, clicking fuel. You can see our fuel at the moment, we're sitting at around about 46%. So we started at 50, so we've only used 4% fuel in this video or so at the moment. We've got our left and right tanks still going. Are they coming down? I think just the left right main are, but would have to watch that for a little bit longer. But yeah, we can see the total fuel up here, 39%, sorry, so we have used 11% fuel. It is definitely using the other tanks. Or another tank somewhere. But you've got your fuel tank information over here. Just keep in mind, the main thing to remember is that there's no fuel information. You've got your fuel flow, but you can't see your tank information, so if you know a way of bringing tank information up here, please let me know. I'm keen to know, but on the release of the game at least, with the default aircraft, I don't know a way to do that. Okay, so we really want to descend now, so I'm going to click VS, I'm going to click down. And she's going to get us down to 5,000 as quick as possible before Hipro. 1,300, I don't know what the ATC has to say to me, but let's see if they have 5,000, do you see that? So we're doing what they're telling us. We're at 1,700. 5,600. 5,500. 5,400. 5,300. 5,200. 5,100, and then it will level out. We'll try and help it a little bit, but it should do that by itself. There we go, caught 5,000. It'll go back to altitude hold. You know it's on altitude hold because it will say turn altitude hold mode off. And we're between Sondar and Hipro on both maps. So I'm going to click now on approach. Approach mode is on. I'm going to left click here and I'm going to click on LOC1. You can see the green line. It's going to pull us a little bit more towards that, over to the right. And then it will straighten up and keep us in line with the runway. Got our glide slope information here now, the little green. You'll notice in just a moment it will begin to pull us down to 5,000 and below. Here we go, watch this, the nose will go down. And aircraft will start heading down towards the runway. Have a little look outside. We can see the airport down there, so it's going to start lining us up with that. Not having to do a lot of work here. This is the advantage of the ILS, but super useful if you're trying to land in weather where you can't see the runway yet. So there we go, it's going to line us up. We're going to bring our throttle way back because we're going to start doing that whole slow down thing. $4,000. It's looking pretty good at the moment. So around about 180 or so, we're going to bring the gear out. We are going to bring our flaps out. Still a little way to go. We'll have a look at our map as well so you can see what's going on. So we're supposed to be at 2400 at Jalon. And you can see we're at 3300 at the moment. So we're on target to reach that, to follow the glide slope down. I'm just doing 170 now. So I'm going to bring out our gears, G on the keyboard. We can have a look at that from the outside. We can see our gear coming out. Putting out our flaps to the first stage only. And we'll jump back into our plane. The plane will adjust for a few moments. So we can see Jalon here on the right, and we should be at around about 2400. We can see 2700, 2600. $2,500. We're pretty close and on schedule here. If you have a look, we're very well lined up with the runway. Our wheels lining up pretty good with it at the moment. So I'm pretty happy. I'll get rid of this so we can see it better. Computer's not struggling at all. Look at our dashboard here, we can see the runway in front of us. So we can now put out full flaps. It's got us down to 1800 and we've got pretty good control over that speed. Just gently coming down. 137. You can see we're pretty lined up. The wheel's lined up with the runway at the moment. We'll come back here in a moment and have a look, but certainly okay. 1300. We're coming down the glide slope now. We're holding about 130. Speed. If that speed can keep coming down, that'll be cool. And that's the ILS Landing. A lot of fun. If you have not tried, give it a go. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe, like and comment. I really appreciate all the subscriptions. That is fantastic. We're looking pretty good here on this runway coming down. As you can see, from the external view, it gives you a much better perspective on what is going on. If I jump into the plane again, we can see we're it's got about 800 left now. So there's two things we've got to do. We've got to turn off that autopilot. We're very quick with no worries. Make sure you're ready with your rudder pedals, because we're going to have to take over with that as well in a moment. I'll see how I go with that. There you go. So you can see that ILS, it's really done a good job. Gives you a good idea. I'm going to jump into my plane now because I want to try and prepare to land. I'm going to turn my autopilot off. I'm going to start flaring and I'm going to bring my throttle all the way back. I've got a nice long runway. I think I've got control of the plane. And when you get under about 100, you'll be super safe to let it to drop onto the runway. There you go. Just keep it straight with your rudder pedals. Push F2 on the keyboard to use the reverse. Keep that speed coming down. Bring your throttle back to idle, but then push your throttle forward to get it out of the reverse mode. And I think we can actually come off here without too much trouble. I'm probably not going to land the realistic location, but we'll land somewhere. There's like 3 runways or something you have to cross. I'll bring my flaps up, F5. My taxi speed's a little high, but I'm just wanting to stop the plane now. So we'll taxi over there somewhere, in a cool location where no one else parks. Maybe we can find somewhere no one's ever parked before. What a cool, interesting backdrop for the tower. Really, really cool. Okay. Can we cut across here? I better not. We'll turn left. Go up here and then turn right somewhere. Again, we're playing this game for fun. I do have crashes on though, so if we hit any of the vehicles on the ground at this point in the video, I will have to restart the whole video and record it again if we crash into any of the little vehicles. So hopefully none of that happens. We'll come over here. This looks like a cool spot to park. Never parked before. There's some trucks here as well, so we can jump into Truck Simulator after this. That sounds cool. Can I spin the plane around? There we go, we're ready next to our trucks. We'll bring the plane to a stop. Jumping into our cockpit, our flaps are in. And I'll show you a quick way to shut down the plane. We've got the 2 mixtures, pull them all the way to the back. And up here, you've got the 2 gens, left, off, off, and off. And you can turn the avionics switch off, but that's it. That's a really, really quick way of turning the plane off. You can hit the switch if you want, if you turn it on. And you're safely on the ground. Put your parking brake on, and you're good. So hopefully you found this video interesting. Hopefully you found something you didn't know. We have shown you all of this information as well. So I hope that is helpful to you if you have not got that. I'll try and put as much as I can in the description. I don't know if it's going to let me do all that. But if not, the source for all that information is down here, okay? So I will put that into the description. Otherwise, you can bookmark this video and come back to it whenever you want. I've put it up a few times during the video, and I hope you find that helpful. You now also know how to do an ILS landing in this beautiful King Air 350i. It would be great if we see a study level version of this plane, or maybe this plane, default plane, will improve a little bit in time as the simulator develops. I hope you enjoyed the flight today. I'll have a little look around the plane once more. So yeah, feel free to subscribe, like and comment on the video. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great day. Bye for now.